Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about a horrible situation involving Vince McMahon. Now the reason why I'm a bit late to releasing this video is because when I first heard of this situation, I thought it was just going to be, the normal situation of people are accusing said person of doing or saying some pretty mean things, and it pretty much ends there. But once I started looking a bit further into it, I found out that that couldn't be further from the truth. This situation is absolutely horrible, so make sure you're ready for a ride because it gets crazy. But before we even get into everything, I want to give a quick rundown of who Vince McMahon is for the people that may not know. So Vince McMahon has pretty much been the owner of the WWE since the 80s all the way until just recently. Now if you're also not really into wrestling, I'm pretty sure most of you have seen something from this guy before because he has done a few other things and also has a decent amount of memes surrounding him. Now moving forward a bit, if you're anything like me, this situation kinda caught me off guard and surprised me a bit because I knew a little bit about him, but I didn't necessarily study him or anything or look into his history until now. And in the process of doing that, I found this article right here that kinda points out that he's no real stranger to doing bad things. But it pretty much says that McMahon had stepped down as CEO of WWE in 2022 after an investigation found that he had paid nearly $15 million to 4 women over the course of 16 years to quiet claims of sexual misconduct. Even during that time, McMahon maintained control over the company as a majority shareholder. So now that we have a bit of a backstory on him and know a bit more about who he is, we can start to get into what's been going on with him recently. And right quick, before we do start talking about the different allegations and stuff made against him, I did want to bring up that a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about is pretty detailed and overall some pretty bad stuff. Honestly, some of the worst stuff that I've went over on this channel. So if you don't necessarily like to get into that type of stuff, you should probably click off of the video now. But with that said, this pretty much starts with this post right here that says, Vince McMahon cuts WWE ties after sex trafficking accusations. The co-founder of World Wrestling Entertainment stepped down from its parent company board one day after ex-employee accused him of sexual assault in a lawsuit. And going off of that, we can start moving into some of the allegations now, starting with this one from Janelle Grant. And it says, a former WWE staffer has accused the company's founder, Vince McMahon, of sexual assault, trafficking, and physical abuse in a lawsuit filed Thursday. The new disturbing allegations from Janelle Grant, who worked at WWE's headquarters, come more than a year after the conclusion of a WWE-appointed special committee investigation into McMahon's alleged misconduct while serving as a chairman and CEO of the company. McMahon retired from his role amid the investigation in July 2022, but has since returned as chair of WWE's parent company. It also goes on to say, in the lawsuit filed in Connecticut District Court, Grant alleged that McMahon promised a job and later promotions at a WWE in exchange for sex. Grant's lawsuit also includes allegations that McMahon trafficked her to other men inside and outside of the company, including John Laurinaitis, a former wrestler who worked in the company's talent relations department who is also named as a defendant in the lawsuit. So what seems like the takeaway from all of those allegations is pretty much Vince McMahon offering this Janelle Grant lady a position at WWE and potentially even promotions in those positions in a trade-off for her sex. And not just with him, but also other members of the wrestling team. Now we're going to be moving into her next claim here in just a second, but before I even go into it, I just want to mention that this one is absolutely horrible. Not saying that the other ones aren't bad, but this one is completely off the rails, so just make sure you're prepared. But it says that early in the encounter, McMahon immediately directed Miss Grant to lay down on her back in a supplicating position, the lawsuit states. While straddling over her, McMahon defecated on Miss Grant's head. McMahon left to shower off, but he instructed Miss Grant to remain in place with excrement in her hair and to continue performing for his friend. While Miss Grant requested protection, none was offered. McMahon and physical therapists actively continued with the threesome and directed Miss Grant's sexual performance for around an hour and a half while she was left covered in feces. Now, before we even move on, after hearing something like that, of course I'd obviously want to take a second and discuss it with the class. And honestly, after an allegation like that, I'm almost left speechless. I almost don't even know what to say about it that hasn't already been said. Like, this is literally the outrageous claim ever. So not only is he coercing these people and forcing them into doing things, he's literally forcing them into doing the most demoralizing, humiliating things you can imagine. It's genuinely horrible. Like I said, I probably wasn't even gonna make a video on this because I thought it was just your typical situation of this guy did a couple bad things, but no, this is absolutely terrible. Like honestly, after hearing that statement, I almost didn't even believe it. I had to check and make sure that this was coming from multiple sources and it was something that's actually genuinely being alleged here. And if these allegations do come out as true and do end up going through, this will be absolutely devastating for him. And as hard as it is to do, moving on from that, there's also been a ton of leaked text messages that I can't really show in the video because they're pretty graphic and I'm sure YouTube wouldn't necessarily like them. So to summarize it right quick, it's basically him just forcing these different people to send suggestive photos and have sexual relations with other wrestlers to pretty much try and get them to take different deals. And it's kind of talked about pretty decently here in the actual case. I'll leave a link to the case in the description, but it says, in March 2020, McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs and videos of Miss Grant, including pornographic content he recorded, with other men both inside and outside of the company, including with members of the television production tech team, executives, producers, and a world-famous athlete and former UFC heavyweight champion with whom WWE was actively trying to sign a new contract, and ultimately did sign that contract. And honestly, what I think one of the worst parts of this case is that he's doing all of this because he knows he can take advantage of these people. Like, he knows that these people were in pretty bad situations in their life where they were pretty much down and out and almost had no other choice but to get whatever they could take. And he offered them a deal that he pretty much knew they couldn't refuse because of their situation. It also outlines that pretty well in the case right here that says McMahon and Laurinaitis were well aware that a job at WWE and advancement and protections outlined above were of significant value to the plaintiff and used that against her. As a result, McMahon and Laurinaitis were able to force, defraud, or coerce Ms. Grant into continued sexual activity because of promises of job placement, job security, and advancement within the WWE and personal protections outlined above. And as bad as it already is, this doesn't even stop there. This is honestly just the case that keeps giving. This post right here says, at the end of her employment and their sexual relationship, McMahon allegedly pressured Grant into signing a non-disclosure agreement in exchange for payments over several years totaling to $3 million, according to the lawsuit. So literally at the end of all that garbage, he tried to hand her an NDA to basically say, oh, I won't tell what happened, I can't tell because you're paying me now. Now, I'm also no lawyer, but I also just don't think that's how NDAs work at all. I don't know why he thought having her sign this NDA would just be some sort of like automatic, oh, I actually can't tell anymore. I don't think NDA covers like illegal stuff like sexual assault and sexual trafficking. So it'd honestly be insanely surprising if she got in trouble because she technically broke the NDA, even though he's doing something highly illegal. So I'm just honestly not too sure what his goal was there. Maybe he was just trying to create some sort of like backdoor or something in case she did tell. And after all of what's been going on here, you're probably wondering what the WWE thinks of this, and the parent company to WWE did leave a response. And it says, in a statement, WWE's parent company, TKO Group Holdings, said that McMahon does not control TKO or oversee day-to-day operations of WWE. Led by McMahon, WWE and UFC, a mixed martial arts entertainment competitor, announced in April 2023 that they would combine to form TKO. While this matter predates our TKO executive team's tenure at the company, we take Miss Grant's horrific allegations very seriously and are addressing this matter internally, a TKO spokesperson said. And at the bottom of this statement, it seems like one of the spokespeople for McMahon also responded. And it says, in a statement to Deadline, a spokesperson for McMahon said that the lawsuit was replete with lies, obscene made-up instances that never occurred, and a vindictive distortion of the truth. He will vigorously defend himself, the spokesperson said. And after all of that, of course a lot of people would be wondering what's going to happen to Vince McMahon and even the WWE. And as far as Vince McMahon goes, I'm honestly not too sure what'll happen to him because as of right now, these are still allegations, and if they're proven right, he'll obviously see some sort of like heavy legal action taken against him probably, but as of right now, it honestly doesn't seem like much has happened other than him having to like step down from his different positions. And as for the WWE, they'll probably see some sort of backlash because they were apparently aware about this situation and did nothing about it. And it's brought up in the case right here that says, in November 2022, WWE touted the conclusion of the special committee's investigation into the misconduct, yet the special committee never even bothered to interview Ms. Grant or request any documents, despite Ms. Grant stating that she would cooperate. It also says WWE employees, executives, and board members were aware of McMahon's exploits involving plaintiff. Some were told, some were shown exploitative pictures, some witnessed unusual and overtly sexual behaviors by McMahon and/or Laurinaitis, and others could not help but hear what was going on through the walls at WWE's headquarters. And honestly, with that all said, this has just been overall a horrible situation, and hopefully the people who have actually done bad stuff in this case do actually see some sort of punishment, and this case doesn't just end up like pretty much all the other countless cases of bad stuff happening that end up just getting pushed under the rug. But yeah, that's pretty much been today's video, a bit more of an informative one, talking about the absolute scummy piece of garbage Vince McMahon, and that's pretty much it for today, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.